Welcome to the Explainer. So, I want you to just take a second and picture your normal morning routine. Maybe you're driving to work, sipping your coffee, or maybe you're lucky enough to still be tucked in bed sleeping peacefully. The world is just humming along exactly like it has for billions of years. But then, the unimaginable happens.
Right in the middle of that perfectly peaceful moment, the Earth just completely stops spinning. And there's absolutely no warning. No sirens going off, no dramatic countdown, not even like a subtle screeching of the brakes. Just an abrupt, immediate zero. It's a pretty terrifying scenario to picture, right?
Which brings us to a seriously chilling question. Would you even survive that very first minute? Like, would our cities just disappear? Would the oceans rise up and literally swallow entire continents? Today, we're diving into one of the most terrifying scientific thought experiments ever imagined. So let's find out what would actually happen. Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, the first terrifying seconds, and the brutal physics of a sudden stop. To really wrap our heads around the massive scale of this disaster, we've got to look at our current speed. As you probably know, for billions of years, Earth has completed one full rotation every 24 hours. This means if you're standing near the equator right now, you are hurtling through space at roughly 1,670 kilometers per hour. That's over 1,000 miles an hour. Now, you don't feel it, obviously, because everything else around you is moving at that exact same speed. So here is the crucial, absolutely terrifying point. When that speed instantly drops to zero for the Earth itself, everything else keeps moving. The solid rock of the planet suddenly hits the brakes. But you don't. And this brings us to a fundamental, totally inescapable rule of physics, which is inertia. You might remember this from science class. It's basically the tendency of objects to just keep moving at their current speed unless they're physically stopped by another force. So because of inertia, literally anything and everything that isn't bolted incredibly tightly to the actual bedrock of the planet is going to maintain that massive velocity of 1,670 kilometers per hour. We're talking within seconds here. Everything not part of the bedrock is thrown violently eastward. People, cars, buildings, even airplanes mid-flight. But honestly, the most terrifying part? The atmosphere itself. The air would just keep racing at over 1,000 miles an hour. We're talking supersonic winds that would flatten whole forests and snap solid skyscrapers like they were little twigs. Honestly, just trying to breathe would become nearly impossible. Which leads us to Section 2, Oceans on the Move, and the unstoppable momentum of water. See, it isn't just the air that has inertia. Think about the oceans. They possess this enormous, totally unstoppable momentum. Because water obviously isn't attached to the Earth, a sudden stop would send all of it flying forward. The immediate result? Imagine an unfathomable, gigantic wall of water crashing into basically every single coastline on the planet. Coastal cities, busy ports, entire islands just instantaneously wiped clean. The sheer volume and force of this rogue water means the world map as we know it would just vanish. Entire landmasses would be permanently reshaped or honestly completely swallowed up by the sea in a matter of hours. Now, let's look at Section 3, a planet of extremes, covering the collapse of weather and time. So the initial shockwave is completely devastating, but the disaster definitely doesn't end there. See, the sudden stop completely kills the Coriolis effect. That's the force generated by Earth's rotation that dictates all of our global weather systems. Without it, the entire climate just collapses. Some regions would bake into these permanent extreme deserts, while others would be trapped in literally never-ending superstorms. Global agriculture as we know it would fail almost instantly. And then comes the totally bizarre new reality of time. If the Earth stops spinning but, keeps orbiting the sun, our familiar 24-hour day just completely vanishes. One half of the planet would be permanently locked facing the sun, boiling under constant lethal radiation. Meanwhile, the opposite half would be plunged into this perpetual, bitterly freezing, pitch-black night. The only remotely habitable zone left would be this razor-thin twilight strip right down the middle. And of course, it's not just humans who would be suffering here. Wildlife would struggle immensely and, let's be real, largely fail to adapt. Plants absolutely depend on those regular, predictable cycles of light and dark to survive. And animals rely on those exact same cycles for feeding, knowing when to migrate, and reproducing. Without the spinning of the Earth to trigger all of that, entire ecosystems would totally collapse, and countless species would just disappear forever. Moving on to Section 4, Surviving the Aftermath, Humanity's Last Resort. So, the big question, could humanity actually survive a cataclysm of this magnitude? I mean, perhaps, but it would require an unbelievable leap in technology and global cooperation. We'd essentially have to retreat into massive underground shelters just to escape those crazy surface extremes. We're talking engineering fully enclosed, climate-controlled cities and meticulously managing artificial food production in closed-loop systems. Everyday life would basically become a permanent, grueling fight for survival. Finally, Section 5, the scientific reality and why you can breathe easy.
Okay, go ahead and take a deep breath. Phew, I know we just painted a horrifying picture of supersonic winds and boiling oceans. But the really good news here is that scientists absolutely do not expect the Earth to suddenly hit the brakes. Actually, halting a mass as massive as our entire planet instantly would require a truly unimaginable amount of energy, like an energy source that literally just doesn't exist. So, thankfully, this whole thing strictly remains a fascinating, albeit super terrifying, scientific thought experiment.
When you think about it, Earth's rotation quietly shapes every single moment of our lives. It gives us our days and nights, it dictates our weather, and it fundamentally makes our planet the beautiful, habitable place that it is. It's just one of those amazing things we rarely ever notice. Well, until we imagine a world without it, right? I really hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the physics of our spinning world. We absolutely love breaking down these wild concepts in this explainer, so let me leave you with this. What if scenario should we explore next? Let your imagination run wild, keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you next time.